Hey everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations on a beautiful day in Olympia, Washington. And today we're going to do a viewer suggest this and I thought it was a really good idea. We're going to do two videos this weekend. One, we're going to do what are the 5 most overpriced Mopar parts on the market and what are the 5 most underpriced parts on the market. So our happy place is a swap meet. I love going to swap meets. It's like one of my favorite things to do. In fact, one of the reasons I have so much junk is because I like buying stuff way more than selling stuff. I just like, it's like a sporting event for me. I just love going to the swap meet. Love finding the underpriced stuff for my projects or, you know, for stuff to sell. And, you know, I just love going to the swap meet. It's super, super fun. So I just kind of thought this would be kind of a good guide for people to kind of see, you know, some overpriced stuff. And if you see it, don't buy it. Some other stuff, if you see it, you should buy it because it's worth more than you think. You know, we've been buying and selling parts and doing swap meets for, you know, 25 years now. We have a lot of experience with it. As I said, going to a swap meet is really my happy place. So all right, so today we're gonna do the most overpriced, and everybody likes the top 5 list. I love lists too. Every time I see them on the internet, I always read them. So we're gonna do top 5 overpriced today, and then tomorrow we'll do the top 5 underpriced. Also, just want to say through this video, if you guys have any suggestions as well on overpriced and underpriced stuff, let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think. A lot of people have more experience than we do at this stuff, and you know, you may agree or disagree with us. Please let us know in the comments. So number 1, I don't think is going to be a huge surprise here. This is number 1 on the list, most overpriced Mopar parts. If you are a regular watcher of our channel or watched last weekend's video, we did an entire like 12-minute rant on how overpriced this part is. But what we got here is the 1964 to 1966 Barracuda rear window. Everybody thinks these things are worth a fortune. As I said, watch our video last week. We went in depth on this, like where the myth came that these things are worth so much money. I just think people think that they're big, and just because they're big, they're worth money. They are not. These things are basically worthless. Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage has had 2 of these on Facebook for like 2 years for $100 and has not been able to sell them. I think he's actually down to $50 now. These things are super tough. They hardly ever break, and every Mopar parts guy has 1 or 2 of these in their backyard that they can't sell. So if somebody tells you that these things are worth $500 to $1,000, tell them they are wrong, laugh at them, and then walk away. And if you see one at a swap meet, just don't buy it. Just say no. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. It's not a good part. All right, on to our next one. Oh, and forgot to mention, I just kind of want to give you kind of a basic kind of price bracket on these. So like if you find a Barracuda rear window, like $100 to $150 is a perfectly reasonable price to pay for this. We had a bunch of people in our comments like commenting how much they paid for them when they had to find one with the Barracuda. So if you find one, you know, $100 to $150 is a reasonable price. If you see it for more than that, it's absolutely not worth that. All right, next part up, and we're actually up on a ladder because all these parts are up on a shelf in the corner of our shop. Ooh, black California plates. I love black California plates. So next thing up is long Ram manifolds. So these are one of the coolest pieces Mopar ever made. They're just gorgeous pieces of art, and what a fantastic idea. The basic point of long Rams are they bolt to one side of your engine, go to the other side. They were used from 1960 to 1964, off and on. No 62s technically use them, but 60, 61, they were called long Ram manifolds. And then 63 to 64 were called short. And what we're doing here is we're doing long Ram. But let me show you the difference between the two, because this is very important. So they made a lot of 6061s with long Rams. So see the runners on this? See how it goes all the way down? That's called a long Ram. Let me show you what a short Ram looks like. Okay, well, ignore everything I just said. So I totally messed up. I thought I had a set of short Rams up here. I do not. So basically what short Rams are is the runner only goes halfway along here. So if you see one that has a runner that goes from here, stops, and then is smooth the rest of the way, that's called the short Ram. We're going to talk about long Rams. So long Rams are 6062 or 6061. So they were standard on the 1963 300F and G, and they were basically optional on everything else. So you get them on a Dodge, you get them on a Plymouth, you can even get them on a 60 DeSoto. I've seen a couple of them. They're pretty unusual. Daryl Davis is a guy who used to work for Chrysler. He got into the IBM records and actually like documented all of them. They didn't make a lot of them. They're pretty rare, but but the fact that they made, you know, all the 300 letter cars, they made all those Dodges, all those Plymouths, all those DeSotos, there's actually quite a few of them out there. And the thing is, like, if you ever got a set of these, you would never throw them away because look how cool they are. I mean, they just look super, super cool. But what I'm saying here is the long Rams aren't worth as much as you think they are because everyone saved them. What's worth money on these is all the parts, because the parts are super, super hard to find. So, for example, so here's a exhaust manifold here. So a Ram exhaust manifold. So see that hole right there? So what they did is they actually had an elbow that went from there up to the bottom of the manifold, up underneath here for exhaust gas. And that way they could heat them up, because otherwise, you know, you have that problem with Slant 6s when it's really cold outside. They just never warm up because they're out in the engine bay. So the whole engine bay has to warm up before they warm up, and the cold startings is terrible. I mean, they aren't that great to begin with, but the cold startings is terrible on that. But like those exhaust manifolds, that's like a $1,500 set of manifolds. Super, super hard to find. And that one's actually 300F or 1960. Because see the bracket on the end there? That means it had a generator on it. If it doesn't have that bracket, that means it's 61, because 61 was the first year for the alternator. So it's actually a set of 60 exhaust manifolds. That is an extremely valuable set of exhaust manifolds. Super, super hard to find. Those are actually probably more of an underpriced part. Although you just never see them. And the people who have them usually know what they have. So it's, you know, at least they're kind of what they're worth. But these long Rams are just super, super cool. They were engineered to basically kind of create a factory supercharge effect. So the air would accelerate down the intake manifold and basically create, like, you know, 2 or 3 pounds of supercharged boost at speed. They really pick up at RPM, which is really interesting. And then the short Rams, which are halfway, so they're basically tuned a little different with the runners, and the short Rams actually have more power. But the short Rams are a lot rarer. So they were only used in 63 and 64. On the 1963 300J, which they only made 400 of, that is the rarest year of letter car. They made the least number of 300Js of any other year. And then in 64, they had the 300K, but the 300K was a very decontented version of the 300J. So they went from 15-inch wheels to 14-inch wheels. You know, the leather became optional, but the standard motor on a 64 was a 4-barrel, a 413 4-barrel. So the short Rams are optional on the 300K, the 1964 300K, but they're extremely hard to find and extremely rare. So the short Rams are worth a ton of money. The long Rams, every swap meet you see a set of these for like $1,500. First of all, condition is everything on these. So you see right here, so the exhaust gases went up to here, so the choke was there, and these always rotted out because you get the hot exhaust gases up into, you know, aluminum, and we just eat it away. This one's actually pretty nice. It's got a little bit of corrosion in there, but it's pretty nice. But you get a bunch of these where like the bottoms are like completely rotted out from the exhaust over the years, and they're just, you know, they're not that, they're just not worth that much. So you can't basically run them. And people will still buy these for like wall hangers, but like at the Portland swap meet this year, we bought a set for $400, and they always want like $1,000 for these things. Like a really nice set of long Rams tends to be like $700, $800, but they got to be super, super nice. Like no cracks, no repairs. The choke areas are nice. They got to be really, really nice to get that. But I don't know. Every time I see long Rams at a swap meet, they're always like $1,000, $1,500. They just don't get that. You know, the carbs are worth a bunch of money. You know, if you need carburetors for them, that's $1,000 set of carbs easily. You know, the crossover tubes, they actually put a tube, see right there, between the manifolds to like equal them out, equal out the pressures. You know, those are hard to find. There's block off plates that they used on these. So here's another crossover tube. So these are block off plates. So when these were mounted, there was a gap over where the heat crossover was in the heads. Of course, it was deleted on a Ram car, but these basically went, you know, in between the manifolds to block off the area of the intake. These are really hard to find and expensive. These are actually reproductions that the Letter Car Club made. Here's an original set right here. Those are really hard to find. The linkage is hard to find. The cake down is hard to find. All that stuff is really hard to find and valuable because everyone saved the manifolds, but threw away everything else. So, all right, well, that's our number 2 most overpriced Mopar part. Let's move on to the next one. I can get off this ladder because I don't like ladders very much. Ooh, that's a Daytona. We're going to have more on that one later. All right, now we come to our next most overpriced Mopar part, Hemi Intakes. I don't know why, but everyone thinks the Hemi intakes are worth a fortune. And again, I'm not sure why, but they really aren't. And I don't know why they don't bring a lot of money, but they really don't. I mean, first of all, they're almost always modified. Like if they deck the block, like they'll drill out these holes to like, to make them fit. You know, they'll be ported and drilled. This one's actually a pretty nice original one. This is one we got on our last Minnesota trip at an old dealer. Guy had a Hemi GTX he was working on. This was another intake for it. The other thing that's always missing on these two is there's a heat shield on the bottom. It's almost always missing, which those aren't super duper hard to find. But yeah, I mean, you see these intakes at swap meets. People always seem to want like, you know, $700-800 for them. Like I've really only been able to get like $300-400 for these, especially the early versus late. So this is a late one, so it has a Pentastar on it. That's 1969 to 71. I think some 68's got that too. And then if it says DPCD on it, that's the 66, 67 version. And those are worth a little bit less because in the world of Hemis, basically every year from 66 to 71 is more valuable. So the 66 is always worth the least, and then 71 is always worth the most. And that's mostly just because of production numbers. They made more 1966 Hemi cars than every other year combined. So there was more production 66 Hemi cars than 67 to 71 of all production put together, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. You know, the Hemi didn't really sell that well. You know, they were really expensive and they didn't sell a lot of them. So I've just always found that kind of interesting. Another little trivia too is, you know, they made so many 66 blocks, they didn't even start casting them again until 68. They made enough blocks in 66 to cover the whole 67 model year. So they cast no blocks in the 67 model year for Hemis, just because they built so many in 66, they didn't need any. So, all right, on to the next part. All right, next part here. We have a 1971 Dodge Challenger finish panel. And here's a great example. I learned this one the hard way. So as you can see my label from the swap meet, 1971 Dodge Challenger finish panel to a swap meet I took it to like 5 or 6 years ago, and it didn't sell. So the thing about these is they are very well protected on a Challenger. So if you can imagine Challenger, there's one on the other side of the shop over here, but it's on a cover. So the deck lid like sticks out here, and the bumper sticks out right here, and then there's a big quarter panel right here. It's so funny, like I can look at an old car and like tell you what parts are worth it or worth the most because they stick out the most. Like on a, you know, we looked at the Barracuda rear window there, like those headlight bezels stick way out on those like pontoons. Those are worth a bunch because they're really hard to find and they always get hit. These never got hit, and I don't know why, but they have like no value. This is worth like maybe $50. But the problem is they like riveted these things together, so they are impossible to ship. You can see the rivets right there because they're super big, like impossible to ship, and they just don't go bad. Like they don't get hit, they don't get damaged, so they just really aren't worth anything. So, sorry, I put this on the workbench. We're actually, yeah, we have 2 Daytonas in here right now. Is that a humble brag? I think it is. If you know what a humble brag is, say it in the comments. Yeah, so we got Project Daytona over there. This is Daytona, our customer John's. It's got a tranny leak. We did the tranny a couple of years ago, and we're trying to fix that right now. These are actually all the nuts, bolts, and fasteners for the Daytona over there. So we actually go through and, you know, restore all the fasteners, getting the correct finish on them. So we've got silver, we got gold, and then we got black oxide. So we always do the correct finishes on those. But I digress. Back to the Challenger finish panel. Yeah, these are basically worthless. I mean, there's some value, but like, first of all, there just don't seem to be that many 71 Challengers out there. I don't know why. They made a lot less in 71 than 70, so there just aren't that many out there. They didn't make a 71 Challenger Hemi convertible, so that's kind of a little bit of a halo effect on these. Like the 71 Cudas go for so much because the 71 Hemi Cuda is like the ultimate muscle car. I mean, those are millions and millions of dollars. They didn't make a 71 Challenger RT. Again, I don't know why. They didn't sell that many 70s. They probably just figured they didn't need to in 71. You know, if you look at our back catalog, we did a 1971 340 Challenger convertible. That is not an RT. It's a regular Challenger with a 340. That was really the only performance motor you get in a 71 Challenger. So yeah, if you see one of these at a swap meet for really cheap, now you'll know why, and it's not really worth anything. You know, another big factor when you're going to swap meets and trying to sell stuff on like eBay or online or anything, like If it's expensive to ship, like this, for example, it's basically the width of a car and it's riveted, so you can't even unscrew it. It really hurts the value of that part too. Because if you don't have a market that's, you know, across the United States, if it's not easily shipped, I mean, cylinder heads are in this category, you know, cast iron stock intakes are in that category. They just don't get a lot of value because it costs so much money to ship them that it really hurts the value of it. So, all right, let's go to number 5. All right, now we're gonna do number 5 most overpriced parts at swap meets. Points distributors. Nobody likes running these anymore. Everyone just wants to go electronic, not worry about it. You know, like Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage, he's one of the few guys who actually likes points because he can tune them and make them work. Us laymen who don't have the knowledge he has, like, it's way easier just running electronic. I mean, I'm not saying these distributors are worthless. Like, Hemi ones still go for pretty good money. But this one, for example, is a Hemi, or sorry, not Hemi. It's a 1970 340 4-speed cast iron dual point distributor. No one wants to run these. Like, we're doing a 446 pack Challenger right now. He actually wants the cast iron distributor, and we're going to put Petronics in it just so he doesn't have to deal with it anymore. And honestly, one of the biggest problems with that is you just can't find good parts anymore. The parts store points just don't freaking work. They just, they wear out quick. You lose the gap quickly. It's more maintenance. Like, just nobody wants to deal with these things anymore. You know, it's the electronic just makes it so much easier. It's just, you know, it's no maintenance. They tend to run a little bit better. I mean, when you get a points distributor dialed in, dual point, they work fantastic. But the problem is getting it dialed in. So unless you have a Jamie, which fortunately I do have a Jamie, so I'm going to run points in my 68 Fury convertible. But if you don't have a Jamie, like it's really, really hard to make these things run right. So, here's the tag here. So it's, of course, I can't get my phone to focus. Yeah, day code is 16th. I think that's 16th week of 70. And then the IBS numbers on the bottom. You gotta have the Galen book to decode these, but just trust me that it's a small block 7340 4-speed. This is actually my eBay table here. We got some parts from the last swap meet we actually got a couple of these. Have you ever seen these before? These will not be on my list because they're actually fairly priced. This is 66 Plymouth Belvedere 2 only. So they had a big side trim and actually had a unique gas cap to just 66 Bell 2. I actually got 3 of these at the Minnesota swap meet. These are worth a lot of money. They're really, really hard to find. Some parts books. I always love those. And a fuel pump for a NOS fuel pump for poly. Kind of cool. So distributors are kind of all over the place. Like the Hemi ones, I see guys asking like $700-800 for them. They tend to be closer to like $400 to $500. You know, obviously from what I said earlier, you know, the later Hemi ones are worth more just because they're more desirable and the cars are worth more. You know, like 340. This one's probably a couple $100 distributor. I'll probably put it up on eBay for 250. But you just see guys asking a ton of money for this stuff, and they just don't seem to get that. There's just not a huge demand for them. You know, there are guys who want to put their cars back to stock, but they're getting to be kind of few and far between. Most guys just want to set it and forget it. I mean, that's why the Restomon thing's so popular right now. You know, a lot of guys want to do fuel injection, a lot of guys want AC, a lot of guys want overdrive. You know, they want all that stuff. So, in fact, Trev out in the shop right now is working on a 67 Coronet convertible, and I think it's great. Like the car, it's a 67 Coronet 500 convertible. It's got, you know, fuel injection on it. It's got a overdrive transmission. It has AC. That thing's fantastic to drive. If it ever breaks, we'll have a different conversation because you can't fix the fuel injection on the side of the road, but it just makes the car that much better to drive. So a lot of people want to go with electronic ignition rather than these points distributors. So. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you like these top 5 lists, you guys have any more suggestions on this stuff, we'd love to hear it. I love doing videos like this. I love dropping knowledge to people, you know, swap meet and, you know, history on this stuff. I just think it's really cool. I think it's really fun to go through that stuff. That's a 70 Charger RT we picked up a little while ago. There's the Hemi intake again. All the Rams are up there on the shelf up there. We got stuff everywhere. I love signs too. There's so much cool stuff in here. Sometimes I just go into my shop and turn around and there's just so much cool stuff in here. And Trev's working on that Coronet we just mentioned. That's a AC overdrive with fuel injection underneath there. So that's our buddy Don's car. Really cool driver, convertible. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. This is Tom with Rocket Restorations. And tomorrow we will have the top 5 underpriced Mopar parts. So, and basically what that one's going to be is, you know, if you see that stuff at a swap meet, it's generally underpriced. You know, if it's out of our range of what stuff's worth, you know, you should buy it because it's a good opportunity to make a few bucks off of it. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.